In a world of dangerous monsters, 9 races ranked from the weakest to the strongest. A little kid carrying his heavy backpack and a tiny sword tried to fight against a huge, deadly monster. The monster attacked the kid, and in a gust of wind, a dragonette named Drago, with level 512, rescued the kid and asked if he was all right. Another attack was launched at the monster from behind, and a strong race woman named Light appeared and saved the kid. Sasha, the elf woman, seemed annoyed as she launched her attack. The kid was again under attack from the monster when he was suddenly saved by Oboro, a ghoul with LVL 403, Diablo, a demon with LVL 419, and Nano, the dwarf with LVL 301. Oboro pointed out that this part was the most brutal dungeon inside the abyss. Cheyenne, the dark elf with LVL 304, proudly stated that with their group, a gathering of races combining their powers, this dangerous dungeon mission would be like a walk in the park for them. Garou, a beastman with level 151, told the kid Light to stay back and leave all the fighting to them. The little kid, Light, a mere human with 15 LVL, felt shaken with fear as he confronted a beast way above his strength. The kid was the weakest in the group, and from the human race which was looked down on by every other race. After the dangerous fight inside the dungeon abyss, Sasha scolded Light for being too reckless. The poor kid apologized, and Sasha asked him to show her his wounds so she could treat them. Garou commented that Sasha was always nice when it came to treating Light. Sasha was embarrassed and told him she wasn't lovely to Light, but rather just worried about their team losing a member and ruining their relationship. Everyone made fun of Sasha for not being honest. Light again apologized to the group for not being helpful, but Drago told him that he enjoyed the tea Light made and was content with that, so Light didn't need to worry about anything. They asked him to go along with them. Light, the innocent 12-year-old kid, trusted his group without thinking they looked down on him. The group then entered a well-lit cave, and Light thought they would rest there, so he opened his backpack and got ready to make tea for the group. To his surprise, Drago told him they were kicking him out of the group. Light looked at them in shock as they stated that they had only been acting nice to him. In reality, all they were interested in was the unlimited gacha gift granted to him. Light quickly stated that his gift could only produce dumb stuff and was not useful. Drago told him that the higher-ups suspected Light being a master, but since it was confirmed that he was not, they were ordered to eliminate the seed of disaster. Drago then revealed they were kicking him out of the group and the world instead. Even Sasha, who had acted like she cared for him, expressed her disgust about acting nice and friendly with Light. After Drago announced that they would kill Light, Garou attacked the poor kid, and the hit landed on Light's face, causing it to start bleeding. Getting scared by the sudden attack, Light tried to escape the group, but Sasha used her arrow and shot him in the leg. After Light fell on the ground, screaming in pain, Garou started beating the lights out of him. When the other members showed their will to join in, Sasha reminded them to stay back, as they didn't want Light's death to look suspicious. Garou, who was having fun torturing Light, finally got serious and was about to kill him when suddenly a teleportation portal trap was triggered by Light's blood and saved him in the nick of time. Inside the dungeon, Light thought about his life and remembered his family. He cried while wishing to go back to his family. He remembered when his group had asked him to join them and the good memories. Suddenly he remembered his present situation and promised himself that he would kill them all. The power inside him got triggered, and while he was still getting the hang of his situation, he was suddenly attacked by another monster. But this time, this monster was not ordinary, but bloodthirsty at level 1000. This was when Light realized that he had been transported to the deepest part of the abyss. Light thought of any possible way he could defend himself, but failed. He then got the idea to use his gift, and took out his unlimited gacha. He told them he hadn't gotten to meet his family and still had to take revenge. With all his bitter feelings, he summoned a powerful entity. The gacha emitted a strong, blinding light, and Light saw the monster attacking him. Just as he thought everything was over, he heard the sound of a girl threatening the monster for baring its fangs at her lord. A magically powerful girl emerged from the gacha card and killed the monster in a single shot. The beautiful girl looked at Light, while the monster on her back was completely exterminated. Light looked at the girl in shock and wondered who she was. The girl looked back at Light and knelt in front of him. She looked at him with pain and told him that she had overstepped her boundaries and healed his wounds without permission. Light looked down and was shocked that his wounds were completely healed. The lady then asked him for his name, and he introduced himself. The lady repeated his name, announced that she swore her loyalty to him, and told him that she was even willing to die for him. Light looked at her, confused about the situation. Understanding his confusion, this lady asked for Light's permission and introduced herself as Sir Card, a level 9999 seeker maid named May. Hearing her introduction, Light felt super shocked that he had summoned a super ultra rare card from his gacha. May knelt in front of him and promised Light that she would always protect him inside the dungeons, and that even after her death, she would remain by his side. The kid fumbled his words and told her that his gacha had always produced trash. But May argued that he was not a weak person, and that his gacha was not defective. She then told him that she could use her skills to identify his powers and confirm his identity. With Light's permission, May scanned him and told him that he was someone who possessed immense powers and had tons of rare and powerful cards in his gacha. She then explained that he hadn't been able to summon someone powerful due to the thin layer of magic in the upper level of the abyss. Now that he was in the deep depths of this abyss, his gacha was triggered by the thick layer of magic there. She then asked him why he was in these deep dungeons alone, which could lead to his quick death if a monster attacked. Light burst into tears and told her he hadn't come here by choice. His old teammates had betrayed him, and it was an accident that he ended up here. May, without any hesitation, pulled Light into her embrace and hugged him tightly. She consoled him and promised that she would protect him. May's eyes then darkened, and she asked Light to give her the orders to get revenge on his ex-teammates, saying she would bring him their heads within an hour, but Light stopped her from carrying out the revenge. May told him that she understood he was kind, but mercy was not an option here. He explained that he had been beaten and left down there, almost dying because he was weak, so he would become stronger and get his revenge for trying to kill him. He asked her if she thought a mere human like him could not achieve his revenge, but May knelt in front of him and said that his wish was also hers. She told him that he would be able to get revenge on his teammates and that she would support him. Light genuinely thanked her for her support and planned his next step in revenge. He opened his gacha again, and the dark abyss filled with luminous light as his gacha began displaying rare and unlimited cards. With this, Light started his revenge story. 3 years had passed since May swore her loyalty, and Light began his revenge plan. In a castle deep in the abyss, Light walked along a hallway filled with maids from the gacha, who bowed their heads in respect to him. The hallway was crowded with maids, as Light walked in front of them and told them they had done good work that day. Light had grown into a 15-year-old boy, and all the maids swooned over him. They cheered for him like a crowd of teenage girls, and one maid assisting Light asked his permission to quiet the fairies, but he told her to let them be. He then walked into the training center and found 3 warrior maids there, bickering with each other. Light announced his presence, and the warrior girls ran towards him. The first knight asked if he could come to see her, but the other girl who had teased her earlier told this knight named Nazuna that Light would never come to see someone like her who lacked elegance. She then turned to Light and told him she was ready to hear his heir, suggesting they hurry to her bedroom. Nazuna called the girl named Eri a pervert for trying to seduce Light while being a virgin. As they started bickering again, another cat girl snuggled up to Light, catching the attention of the bickering girls who complained that it was not fair for her to cling to Light alone. Light stroked her chin, treating her like a cat. While he talked, a hellhound monster appeared in front of them, causing Light to flinch due to his trauma from 3 years ago. The girls quickly moved before Light and threatened the hellhound for showing up before him. These girls were warriors from the super ultra rare cards in Light's unlimited gacha. The defense team protecting Light consisted of Eri, a forbidden mage with level 9999, Nazuna, a vampire knight with level 9999, and Aoyuki, a monster tamer with level 9999. They threatened the hellhound, ready to attack, when Light stopped them and told them they had scared the hellhound too much. He then petted the monster, which acted like a puppy, and told the girls that the beast could be cute if they got used to it. He quickly laughed it off, thinking that the girls would make the hellhounds go extinct if they ever learned about the incident from 3 years ago. The girls then asked him what he was there for, and he cheerfully told them that May had contacted him and reported that the prey had been caught, so he wanted everyone to get ready. The girls cheered up and told him they would work hard to prepare. Light inhaled deeply and the group turned into a dangerous menace as he announced that this prey would be the first one he would get revenge on after 3 years. Light's ex-teammate Garou walked around like a hero in the major city of Beastmen, and people fawned over him. He felt proud and thought inwardly that he wanted everyone to respect and praise him more, as he would soon be their chief. Inside a bar, he proudly downed sake as the server praised him even more, telling him he wanted to become like Garou. Garou, seeing this as a proud moment, told him that to succeed, one needed to complete one's mission with the best results. The server mentioned a group gathering of the races, and Garou remembered when he had the task of killing Light. He thought about that time, and wondered why killing just a kid was such a big deal. His senses suddenly tingled, and he felt alert as he smelled death. He then considered himself the strongest who would rise above everyone and order more sake. Suddenly, Mei arrived and asked if he was Garou from the gathering of races, and Garou asked her what she wanted. She began her act and asked him where Light was, wanting Garou to take her there. Garou was shocked to hear Light's name, and Mei quickly introduced herself, saying she had sworn loyalty to Light. He looked at her and stated that she had done her part to find him. When she was unable to locate him, she came to the former member of the group. She agreed and handed him a large amount of money for his cooperation. Garou then wondered if Light had any noble blood and remembered that the whole country had looked into Light, but this information was never found. He considered the offer for a while and devised a devious plan. He agreed to help her but already had other plans, telling her he would guide her to where he last saw Light. Mei became excited and Garou told her that Light was a good friend of his, so he would accept his people's request. He warned her that the dungeons were dangerous, so he would gather his men and escort her there. Mei quickly showed him her gratitude. Garou, on the other hand, was excited that he would soon attack Mei in the same place where he attacked Light. Accompanied by 10 other beastmen, Mei and Garou entered the cave where Light was almost killed. As they entered, Garou started his fake story about how his group was ambushed and how Light was heavily injured when he disappeared from a teleportation trap. Mei sobbed, and Garou quickly signaled his men to guard the entrance. Garou approached Mei and continued his fake story, but she interrupted him, saying this was the place where those rotten eggs betrayed her Light, and if only she had been on his side earlier, he would not have suffered such heavy wounds. Garou stepped back at her sudden revelation. Even Garou's beastmen became confused, seeing their leader shaken. He yelled at her, asking if she was a spy from another country, but her immense power began to leak out, frightening Garou even more, as she claimed again that she was just an honorable maid who swore loyalty to Light. She turned and looked at him with a piercing gaze, telling him that the one who harmed her master would have their insides revealed right then and there. Mei's immense power began to affect Garou. He could not move and started to shiver. As Mei prepared for her attack, Light called her from behind, telling her it was not her turn yet. Everyone turned back to see a boy standing behind them with his face covered. The beastmen became confused and asked Garou how the boy suddenly appeared and about the woman, but Garou was still shaken and saw the boy reveal his face. As soon as Light revealed his face, Garou screamed in shock and yelled, "You are alive, Light!" Light's smile widened as he locked eyes with Garou, his cheerful tone cutting through the tension. "I was here to get my revenge after 3 long years," he declared. However, Garou and the other beastmen were in no mood for levity, their expressions twisting into doubt as they wondered how this seemingly bratty human had managed to sneak up behind them unnoticed. Breaking free from his momentary daze, Garou scoffed at Light's bravado, mocking that this child could seek revenge against him, a powerful foe when he was nothing more than a level Q5 kid. He began to ridicule Light, hurling threats of violence, boasting about his large pack of ferocious wolves that would soon bring the human's life to an end. Yet, instead of showing fear, Light maintained his composure, calmly countering Garou's assumptions. "You thought I was weak. You didn't even know how I survived the abyss or the nature of my relationship with Mei." Garou paused, considering Light's words for a moment, before retorting that while Mei might have possessed an enigmatic power scale, he commanded a formidable team of 10 elite fighters, all boasting levels exceeding 130. "You didn't stand a chance against me," he declared, his voice dripping with arrogance. He further boasted about his extensive background research, emphasizing that Light was just a human with a strange gift. Despite Garou's scathing insults, Light remained unflappable, accepting the taunts calmly and steadily. This unwavering attitude only fueled Garu's confidence. "I would easily defeat you," he proclaimed, his bravado swelling as he ordered his men to attack and kill Light. However, as the beastmen lunged forward, their threats were abruptly silenced, their heads severed instantly, rolling onto the ground like discarded playthings. May, having swiftly intervened to defend her master, now stood protectively at Light's side. The Light turned to her, his expression serious yet reassuring. "I would take care of this. You would guard the entrance." The remaining beastmen stood in shock and confusion, struggling to process the swift and brutal turn of events. Garu, refusing to acknowledge their defeat, insisted to his men that the attack had been a fluke, claiming that an inferior species like Light could never threaten them. Light shrugged off Garu's derogatory remarks, meeting his gaze with unwavering confidence. "You called me weak, but you were the one who continued to look down on those you deemed inferior," he countered, his voice steady. Garu, anger flashing in his eyes, dismissed the insult, reiterating that their levels far surpassed Light's. "With just a bit of magic, we could elevate our levels even higher," he boasted, his bravado palpable. Having reached the limits of his patience, Light shot back defiantly. "If you were all so superior, then why were heads rolling at your feet?" The challenge hung in the air, a stark reminder of the reality before them. Taking the remark as a personal affront, Garu charged at Light, rallying his entire pack of bloodthirsty hounds to attack. Yet, in a stunning display of speed and skill, Light responded with singular efficiency, delivering precise strikes that felled the beasts in a single blow. He stood resolute, gazing down at the beastmen writhing in pain on the ground, and asked Garu, calm yet piercing, "What was wrong with you? Was this truly all the power you possessed to attack me?" Light's confidence radiated, and the air crackled with tension as Garu and his remaining warriors processed the startling turn of events, their bravado wavering in the face of undeniable defeat. Garu glared up at Light, his eyes blazing with rage. His fury reached a breaking point until he suddenly doubled over, vomiting from the sharp pain in his gut. He coughed and choked as he struggled to rise. Staggering, he pushed himself back onto his feet, muttering a chant under his breath, desperately trying to rekindle the hatred he held for humans. Disbelief gnawed at him. He, a mighty wolf man, was losing to a mere human. The thought enraged him, and he howled, his voice thick with anger and pride. "Don't you dare look down on me," he snarled, reaching into his bag swiftly, determinedly. Light watched with a raised brow as Garu jumped back, clutching something small and round in his hand. Garu revealed a small, polished pearl with a sneer, holding it up for all to see. "Let's see how you handle this," he hissed, calling out to summon someone named Fenrir. He smashed the pearl against the ground with a quick, powerful strike. A blinding light exploded from the impact, filling the room and forcing everyone to shield their eyes. Garu's wicked grin grew wider as the radiance faded, his confidence restored. "This," he said with pride, "is a monster ball. It's a rare item with a high-level monster inside, loyal to its master for an hour once released." He shot Light a triumphant look. "An hour is all I need to crush you." Gritting his fangs, Garu could hardly believe he had to use such an expensive trump card on a mere boy, but the power of the monster that appeared around him was palpable. A massive, muscular canine form unfurled beside him, its eyes glowing fiercely as it roared, shaking the room. The monster was level 500, and the sight of it left Garu's minions awestruck, hope reigniting in their eyes. Garu's confidence surged as he glared at Light, convinced that the boy had been relying on tricks all along. He pointed at him with a clawed finger. "You should have killed me when you had the chance. I'll make you regret it." But Light looked back at Garu, unimpressed. With a faint smirk, he asked, "Is that your trump card? Level 500? You think that's going to stop me?" Garu let out a laugh of disbelief, shaking his head. "You've lost your mind," he spat. "You're just a kid, relying on magic items. Beg for mercy, like you did years ago." His voice was laced with mockery, and his minions chuckled in amusement. He grinned, savoring his perceived advantage. "Maybe I'll let you live if you make me laugh." Everyone in the room snickered, watching as Light stood unfazed by the taunts. The boy sighed, his lips curving into a small, confident smile. "Fine," he said calmly. "I'll stand right here. Let your so-called trump card try its best." Garu's grin faltered, replaced by offense and anger. "Fenrir! Turn him to ash!" he roared. The massive canine beast bared its fangs, gathering energy before unleashing a breath attack with the force of a cannon. The blast shot toward Light, the power enough to obliterate anything in its path. But as the smoke cleared, Light remained standing, untouched. He brushed the dust from his shoulder, with no scratch on him. Garu's mouth fell open in shock, struggling to understand. The only explanation was a massive gap in power, but the idea that Light was at an even higher level was incomprehensible to him. Light broke the silence, his tone casual. "My turn." Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a card, the surface glimmering faintly. "Allow me to introduce you to the real Fenrir, level 9000. With a quick motion, he summoned a towering wolf. Its body formed entirely of pure light. The majestic creature materialized behind Light, exuding an overwhelming presence that charged the air. With a single command from Light, the luminous wolf exhaled softly toward Garu's beast. In an instant, the opposing monster froze solid, its massive form encased in glistening ice, before shattering into countless pieces scattered across the floor. Light looked back at Fenrir with a warm smile, petting the large, loyal creature while Garu fell to his knees, his body trembling in fear. His voice quivered as he asked, How could you have something like that?" Light's smile didn't waver as he replied, "Oh, I didn't need to summon Fenrir. You see, I'm level 99,999. The revelation hung in the air, and as Garu's eyes widened in pure terror, he realized how insurmountable the gap between them was. Garu stared up in fear at the brilliant Light, his body shivering uncontrollably. His minions, who were positioned behind him, were also scared for their lives. One of them nervously remarked that he had previously believed a human's average level should typically be around 100. However, Light then explained that May was also at level 99,999, which made Garu suddenly realize that Light was indeed the real deal, and wasn't messing around with his incredible power. Garu was still in disbelief that the boy standing before him was the same Light he had known 3 years ago. He focused on the unsettling fact that the boy's appearance hadn't changed at all. The boy explained that he had used a special wristband of immortality, which he had received as a geisha gift, to stop his growth deliberately so he could remember his feelings of despair, sorrow, and rage from all those years ago. Garu stared intensely at the boy, fully aware that he was now facing a monster who could kill him. In a moment of desperation, he immediately slammed his hands onto the ground in a deep bow. He apologized profusely for being rude and attempted to make an excuse, saying that he had only tried to kill Light because it was an order from his country, claiming that Light could do whatever he wanted with the other beastmen as long as Garu was allowed to live. Everyone else in the room was understandably offended by Garu's actions, feeling angry that he seemed to care only about himself at that critical moment. When he begged the boy to remember the good memories they had shared, Light finally spoke up and said he would like to ask Garu something before considering letting him go. He inquired about what country they meant when they mentioned something regarding a master, but Garu seemed not to know anything at all about that. Garu replied that the beastmen didn't have as many skills as the other races, which meant they weren't informed about the mission. The boy then asked the other wolves if they knew anything, and everyone began to jump up, hoping that sharing information with Light would allow them to live. However, that wasn't the case, as May quickly sliced them all to pieces. Knowing that their intentions were nothing more than lies directed toward Light, their blood splattered around Garu and the wolfman's body shook with terror. Light posed one last question, asking if Garu thought he could win against all the countries on the surface with his immense strength. Garu admitted that he truly believed Light was powerful. Still, he also acknowledged that it would be nearly impossible to win against all of them due to the countless years of history and the legendary-grade weapons and armor they owned. Light hummed thoughtfully before smiling at how Garu had told the truth, and he agreed that they would undoubtedly have limits despite their power. Suddenly, Light pulled out a teleportation card and enveloped the group in bright light, confusing Garu until they all disappeared and were entirely transported elsewhere. Garu held his head in fear, with his eyes tightly closed, until he realized that he was still alive. He opened his eyes and looked around in bewilderment, wondering where they had ended up. A vast room filled with hundreds, if not thousands, of people from all races who stood organized in an orderly manner, leaving enough space for Light to walk toward a magnificent throne. He then sat down on the grand chair, as everyone bowed deeply in his presence before Light kindly asked them to raise their heads and display their status boards. Within seconds, the message boxes appeared all around the room as everyone present displayed levels far above what Garou could comprehend. Evil eyes from around the room stared intently at Garou, while Light explained that during the 3 years he spent down there, he raised all these individuals just by using his power. The boy then asked the same question from earlier, inquiring if Garou believed he could win against all the people on the surface. However, Garou couldn't answer, and could only feel the life in him slowly leaving his body, which made Light feel increasingly confident. The wolfman managed to speak up, and asked if the boy was something like a god, which caused Light to realize how the sound of that label felt surprisingly good to him. He wondered what he should give to the world with his extraordinary gift, and was about to make a decision based on the truth regarding why the other countries wanted him dead. Light was determined to find out whether he should become a gift holder who bestowed happiness or the one who gave death and despair. The boy then stood up from his chair and announced to everyone in the room that they would rise from the abyss, confront the truth, and seek revenge against the people on the surface. A few days later, following Light's intense act of revenge against Garou, the team set off on their next plan. They made their way to the boy's former village to pay a visit to the graves that had been made for his parents. Light stared at the graves with a deeply saddened expression, clutching a bouquet tightly in his hands before gently placing it on top of the freshly turned earth of the graves. The village was now referred to as Light's former village because someone had ruthlessly destroyed it. This was not the boy's first time coming to the surface. His initial visit had occurred half a year ago, long before he sought revenge against Garou. As it turned out, the abyss was far deeper than anyone had originally thought, and Light's teleportation skill had been rendered useless for getting him quickly to the surface. After a lengthy period of figuring out how to maneuver around the various restrictions, the group finally succeeded in escaping the abyss and made their way to Light's village. However, when the boy arrived, he was horrified at the sight of the remains of the village he had once known and loved. Nothing was left behind, and there was not a single person alive. Overwhelmed with grief, Light fell to his knees, wailing as he recalled the sorrowful task of burying everyone's bodies. In his anguish, he attempted to harness the power of those with him to uncover what had happened to the village, yet there was no definitive trace of the truth. The only glimmer of hope that Light could perceive in this dire situation was that he couldn't find the bodies of his siblings, which meant there was at least a chance that they might still be alive somewhere out there. This realization prompted Light to dispatch members of his group to gather information and search for the culprit behind this tragic fate. Just then, a knight clad in gold armor approached the boy and asked if he was done so they could depart immediately, thus avoiding the need to sleep outside on their first night of traveling. A woman who had called out to the knight, known as Gold, had reprimanded him for speaking so casually to Light, urging him to show more respect. This woman was named Namumu, and she firmly told him to watch his attitude when addressing the boy. However, Gold explained that formalities had felt awkward to him, and he playfully asked the girl if she wanted to sleep outside herself. Namumu attempted to claim that she didn't care where the group would sleep as long as she could be with Light, but the knight pointed out that it would probably be best for the boy's well-being to avoid camping outdoors. This caused Namumu to realize the validity of his point. Gold also cautioned Namumu to temper her loyalty to Light, in case he might one day dislike her, which led the girl to start crying and worrying. Nevertheless, she vowed to fulfill her duty as a devoted servant. Light watched this exchange and began to chuckle at the sight unfolding before him, reassuring both of them that he would never harbor hatred for any of them. These two individuals, Gold and Namumu, were Light's trusted guards while he took on the role of a traveling adventurer on the surface, both of whom were formidable warriors at level 5000. The plan had officially begun, and the three set off on their journey to uncover vital information. Light's next target was the elf girl named Sasha. Eri had already diligently prepared for his revenge against her. but they all agreed that they needed to initiate this adventure plan. The reason for this approach was that Light did not want to incite a war out of nowhere without sufficient information. Instead, he had chosen to investigate the strongest individuals in every country, aiming to learn about the enemy and their potential gifts. Namumu tried to convince him that there wouldn't be anyone else in the world quite like Light. Still, the boy patiently explained that because he existed, there was always a possibility of another individual like him emerging. This understanding meant that they should remain extra cautious, particularly concerning the master that all of the countries feared. Even if monsters or bandits had destroyed Light's village, he was certain it was intricately connected to this master. As rage began to fill Light's small frame, he felt his fist tighten in anger, knowing that he would burn the world down if given the chance. Gold and Namumu shivered in fear at his intensity, but after a moment the boy sighed and took a deep breath to calm himself down. He then donned a clown mask, a peculiar choice that lightened the mood, and told the others that it was time to go. All three of them had begun to soar through the air, gliding gracefully toward a specific direction. Namumu, filled with curiosity, had asked Light if they were indeed heading toward a city in the Dwarf Kingdom. To this, the boy had confirmed that they were on their way to the city of Dagas, a well-known place where a dungeon had recently been discovered, and where people typically gathered in search of adventure. Gold, ever the cautious one, had told Namumu that she should be careful about what she called Light when they reached the ground. The boy had agreed with a nod, letting them both know that they should refer to him as Kuro once they arrived. He had explained that he would be known from that moment on as Kuro the Adventurer, a boy striving to raise his rank and build his reputation. Light had been acutely aware that he couldn't go by his original name, as he feared that the former gathering of races might catch wind of their situation and sabotage his carefully laid plans for revenge. Dagas had been strategically chosen because it was far from where the group would normally operate, allowing them to gather more information about the master under whom they were planning to raise their adventurer ranks. Meanwhile, Eri would be working on completing Sasha's revenge plan. Once the group had arrived near the city, the three of them had landed softly in a forest and had begun to make their way through the trees in the direction of Dagas. A rustle echoed in the distance as they walked, catching their attention. They soon spotted a carriage harassed by some dwarf bandits attempting to rob the occupants. While Light and Namumu had concealed themselves among the trees, Gold's armor had gleamed brightly and could be seen from a mile away. The bandits had quickly noticed the knight's imposing presence, and with menacing glares, they had ordered the group to come out, focusing particularly on Namumu because she was a woman. Light, thinking quickly, instructed Gold to confront the people hiding in the trees without resorting to lethal force. Meanwhile, he and Namumu would rush to assist the parent and child in the carriage. The hidden dwarves had finally burst forth from the bushes, charging at Gold to steal his shiny armor. However, to their shock, all their weapons had shattered upon making contact with the knight's armor. The dwarf had stood in disbelief, staring at his broken weapon until Gold, with a flick of his wrist, had sent the old man flying through the air. The Golden Knight then boldly announced to the remaining dwarves that he would teach them a lesson about the spirit of a knight. Light, trying to defuse the situation, had told the rest of the dwarves to stand down, but they had dismissed him, believing that the young boy lacked any real power against them, especially since they were all over level 200. The boy then urged Namumu not to kill them, and the dwarf bandits realized that the fierce woman was standing right behind them. Before they could react, she had swiftly incapacitated the men with her impressive skills. Light had then knelt to ask if the parent and child were okay, while they had stared at him in bewilderment and awe, questioning who their group was. After receiving some first aid, the family graciously allowed the three of them to ride in their carriage. The father, filled with gratitude, had asked if they were famous adventurers. Still, Light had humbly admitted that their group was preparing to register as adventurers for the first time once they reached, aiming to rank up as quickly as possible. After some time traveling on the road, the group had finally reached the entrance of the Dwarf Kingdom and had been dropped off at the city gates. The man they had helped had informed Light that he owned an inn, primarily for humans, which he had offered in case Light ever needed a place to stay. The boy had expressed his gratitude, and they had quickly bid farewell as they entered the city. Gold and Namumu had marveled at the vibrant place around them. as it was their first time experiencing a city on the surface. The three of them had then continued on their path toward the guild, anticipation building within them. At last, they had arrived, staring in awe at the large, imposing building that housed the Dagas Guild. As they entered through the grand doors of the guild, they were greeted by a vibrant scene filled with people of all races bustling about the spacious building. Laughter and chatter filled the air, making the atmosphere much livelier than outside city streets. Light turned to Namumu and Gold, urging them to complete their registrations without delay. However, Namumu was visibly dissatisfied with the clerk's rank assigned to Light. Although she didn't care about her rank or Gold's, she felt a deep anger at the thought of Light receiving an F rank, which was usually the starting rank given to every newly registered adventurer. Fueled by her frustration, Namumu slammed her hands on the counter and demanded that the clerk raise Light's rank to a prestigious triple S, completely ignoring the standard procedures. Light, however, remained calm, gently telling her that he didn't mind starting from F, and he sincerely apologized to the clerk for Namumu's outburst. After they finished their registration, they stepped outside into the bustling streets. Namumu, now sitting on the ground in defeat, felt guilty for making Light apologize for her actions. Before the group set off to find an inn, they decided to visit the establishment owned by the man they had saved earlier that day, Colonel. Upon entering the inn, the father immediately welcomed them and promised to give them the best hospitality he could muster. However, Light interrupted him, stating that he had 3 specific requests for their stay. The first request was for them to stay for an entire month. The second was to secure the highest floor all to themselves. And the third was a rather unusual condition. He requested that not even a single staff member should go up to their floor while they were there. To emphasize the seriousness of his requests, Light pulled out a bag filled with 300 gold coins, placing it on the counter as he asked Colonel if this amount would be enough. He insisted that the money should be seen more as a gift than as payment. Colonel thought for a moment, then bowed graciously and accepted the requests, leading the 3 of them up to the highest floor of the inn. Once they arrived and were left alone, Light took out some enchanted cards to enhance their privacy. With these cards, he cast a spell that would make their rooms silent to the outside world, nullify any external magic aimed at them, and allow him to detect anyone approaching their space. Gold, intrigued by the sight of the coins, asked about the source of the money. Light explained that the coins were real and had come from their comrades acting as merchants on the surface. He didn't want to use counterfeit currency at this inn, which could cause serious trouble. He further explained that although he could generate infinitely more money through his gacha skill, he had no intention of upsetting the economic balance of society. At that moment, Namumu interjected, her expression serious as she tried to share her concerns. She reminded Light that, despite his great strength, the chance of unforeseen events happening was not zero. Worriedly, she suggested that they consider sending more people from the abyss to help them. The boy shot Namumu a cold, piercing look, his voice sharp as he cut her off, asking if she was trying to take away his chance at revenge. A menacing aura surrounded him, making the air thick with tension. In response, Namumu knelt on the ground, her eyes widening as tears began to well up, her body trembling with fear at the intensity of his gaze. Gold, unable to contain his amusement, let out a hearty laugh, reminding Namumu that Light could achieve his goals through his own strength and determination. Taking a moment to compose himself, Light softened his expression and reached out to comfort the distraught girl. He apologized for lashing out and scaring her, acknowledging the weight of his words. Namumu, recognizing her fault, wanted to reaffirm her loyalty to him again. In a surprising gesture of submission, the boy sat down in a chair while Namumu carefully removed his shoe and kissed his toe, a traditional display of loyalty among those from the abyss. Though Light felt embarrassed by the act, he understood its significance, even if he didn't endorse it. Gold, breaking the awkward silence, teased Namumu about her actions, lightening the mood as he grinned at the peculiar scene before them. However, Light quickly redirected their focus, informing them their priority for the following day would be entering the dungeon, especially since Ares' preparations were nearing completion. As dawn broke, the sun cast brilliant rays of light over the land, revealing a bustling crowd gathered near the dungeon entrance. Stalls lined the pathways, and vendors shouted out to sell provisions, food, potions, and weapons. Everything an adventurer could possibly need, and this was merely the entrance to the dungeon. The three of them marveled at the lively scene around them, each feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness about the adventures that awaited. Light's gaze drifted toward the throng of people forming an orderly queue to pass through a grand gate, while Gold pointed out that the crowd mostly consisted of humans, beastmen, and dwarves. Light explained that elves were usually unwelcome in the area due to the long-standing hatred between elves and dwarves, which showed racial tensions in the land. Amid the crowd, people began to notice the trio, their distinct appearance setting them apart. Light couldn't help but feel embarrassed about standing out so much, especially with Namumu positioned close behind him. Nevertheless, he embraced it, seeing the attention as a potentially positive opportunity, rather than a cause for concern. Suddenly, a group of hooded figures caught their attention as they brazenly cut in line, prompting murmurs among those waiting behind them. The lead figure was small, yet seemed well-trained, while the two others behind him appeared less experienced. The queue members exchanged anxious glances, debating among themselves about how to respond to this breach of etiquette, wary of the consequences that could follow should they confront individuals of another race. Light, recognizing that the party cutting in line seemed to be around his age, felt a surge of determination to address the situation quickly. He stepped forward, his voice steady as he called out to the hooded figures, warning them not to jump ahead in the line. They felt offended by such a small, seemingly weak boy telling them what to do, so they boldly asked Light if he knew who he was. While engaging in conversation with Light, one of them made a sarcastic remark about how he was supposed to know who they were, especially when their hoods were pulled down over their faces. Gold chimed in with hearty agreement, only to provoke the strange man further, making him even angrier. Namumu, recognizing the escalating tension, decisively cut in to tell the man to stop being stupid and to go to the back of the line. Meanwhile, everyone around them rallied to yell loudly and complain about the hooded figures, expressing their frustrations. However, this man, consumed by an overwhelming sense of rage, felt an intense surge of anger boiling within him and attempted to pull out a weapon that was hastily covered with a rag. A person standing beside him, observing the situation, cautioned the angry man to calm down, emphasizing that it wasn't the right time to brandish such an item. Gritting his teeth in frustration, he angrily stomped away alongside the other hooded individuals. At the same time, the rest of the onlookers praised Light and the other two for their brave display in the face of such hostility. The party that had been cut in front approached them, gratitude evident as they expressed their sincere thanks for the assistance they had received. One of the members then asked Gold if his armor was real, as everyone else in the vicinity seemed just as curious about it. Just as the knight was about to respond with an answer, Namumu swiftly interrupted him, asserting that it was, in fact, fake, and would have been both unreliable and inefficient if it had been real, especially considering the numerous attacks from bandits who sought after such valuable armor. Light, who was well aware of the truth regarding the armor being made mostly of real gold, realized that telling this lie would be the best way to ensure that people remembered them positively, which could serve them well in the future. The boy, who appeared to be the party's leader, asked whether it was their first time entering a dungeon, given their noticeable lack of camping equipment. Light took the opportunity to explain that they were only there to scout the place out and thanked the boy for providing them with such valuable information. At that precise moment, the dwarf stationed at the gate called out for the next party, indicating that it was time for an early farewell between the two groups. As Light and the others pondered whether they should reveal the existence of the item boxes they possessed, they ultimately decided that it would be best to think about it once they were safely inside the dungeon and out of sight. Namumu, ever curious, then asked what dungeons were like, as they all held various mysteries and wonders. Light knew that there was far too much enigma surrounding the dungeons, and that proper understanding would only come once they discovered the heart of the dungeon, the elusive dungeon core. Even Eri, who had the most profound experience of magic among them, couldn't provide an exact definition of what a dungeon core was. Hints about dungeon cores could be found in the ancient myths surrounding the world's creation. Initially, the world had been shrouded in darkness until a goddess created the lands along with 9 distinct races in a display of immense love. When the vortex had been divided, it inadvertently formed an evil god who harbored a passion for the goddess, yet found himself trapped beneath her magnificent creation. This malevolent god would use the holes which became known as dungeons to spawn his monsters, all intending to unleash chaos upon the land to reach the goddess he adored. According to the legends, the 9 races had constantly engaged in battle against these monsters to protect the goddess, and according to the myth, that struggle continued even now, woven into the very fabric of their reality. It was said that the monsters grew stronger at night, seeking refuge underground where the evil god resided, while the cores were supposedly fragments of this god, absorbing energy from the stars and magic to create the dungeons. These cores spawned materials and treasures and generated monster and an astonishing variety of environments. After what felt like an eternity of walking through the dark cave, Light and the group soon entered an utterly alien place, a realm that seemed like a whole different world compared to the surface they had just left behind. As dusk began to fall on the first floor of the Dagas dungeon, a group of people moved cautiously through the forest, their path dimly lit by the fading sunlight. This group was none other than the same hooded figures that Light and his companions had confronted earlier for attempting to cut in line. One member noted that evening was fast approaching, while another expressed frustration over how much their plans had been derailed due to the delay in entering the dungeon. They had still been stuck on the first floor, all because they had been rightfully put back in line by Light and the others. Suddenly, a low growl echoed nearby, and the 3 hooded figures quickly realized monsters surrounded them. Understanding that they needed to deal with these creatures quickly to stay on track with their mission, they prepared for battle. Boar-like creatures charged toward them, but the one with a large concealed weapon was ready. He pulled it out and began slicing through the monsters. He fought furiously, still seething over the earlier confrontation with Light and his group, who had reprimanded them for cutting in line. With each strike, monsters fell, decapitated and left behind as he vented his rage. Barely paying attention to the beasts around him, since they posed no real threat, he leaped into the air, stabbing his weapon into the ground with a triumphant declaration. He claimed his title as one of the strongest white knights in the Elf Kingdom, the youngest to be recruited and an inheritor of the Master's blood. After the fight, he checked his status and scoffed when he saw that his level hadn't increased. Frustrated, he complained about not gaining experience from such weak opponents. Another hooded figure, Yanaku, walked over to Kaido and calmly advised him to relax, reminding him that their real target was the trolls on the dungeon's 3rd floor. They needed to ignore weaker monsters on the earlier levels. Grumbling, Kaido expressed his anxiety about possibly reaching his growth limit and remaining stuck at level 1500, even though he carried the Master's blood. Yanaku reassured him that he was already far stronger than most elves. However, Kaito remained unsatisfied, convinced that if he could break past his current level, he could achieve the title of hero and earn the goddess's blessing, allowing him to confront those who had humiliated him. The elf with half glasses, showing sympathy for Kaito's frustration, shared his struggles and promised to support Kaito's quest. Yet Kaito, still irritable, told Yanaku to hurry up with his research so they could level up. Yanaku, grinning, affirmed that he'd do whatever it took to continue his research, as they both sought the same goal. Kaito, with a scoff, questioned why he was working alongside a dark elf, only to remind himself that this was a trial from the goddess. Once recognized as a hero, he could confront those who had crossed him. Meanwhile, Light, Numumu, and Gold made smooth progress through the dungeon, already reaching the 3rd floor and defeating all the trolls. Light directed his companions to gather materials from the trolls and magic stones from the golems to prove their achievements. However, with Light's unlimited gacha gift, they were never short on resources. Noticing how filthy they had become, Light suggested heading back, and Numumu, excited at the chance to help him wash up, eagerly agreed until Gold teased her about it. The 3 set off to return to the dungeon's entrance. When they returned to the 1st floor, they soared through the sky, spotting the group they had encountered earlier waiting in line to enter the dungeon. Light observed that goblins now surrounded the group. Although Numumu remarked that it probably wasn't worth their time to intervene, and Gold noted that the group was unlikely to lose. Light pointed out that they seemed overly focused on what was in front of them. Just then, a snake slithered through the grass, approaching the girl in the group while her male companions celebrated victory over the goblins. Startled, they turned to find Light and his group standing right behind them. Light calmly advised them to be more mindful of their surroundings, gesturing to the snake he had just crushed by the throat. The bush snake would have paralyzed the girl, Mia, leaving her helpless if it had bitten her. Grateful, the group thanked Light, but their relief was short-lived. Suddenly, wolves burst out from the forest, causing everyone to freeze. Surprisingly, the wolves weren't attacking but fleeing from something. As tension rose, an enormous Forsyth mantis emerged behind the trees, ready to strike. The mantis' roar echoed through the air as the other group's leader, Oni, explained that the monster they faced was rare and appeared only once every 30 years. Oni urgently suggested they should all run away since the mantis was a formidable level 500 monster. However, before they could flee, Light asked if he and his group were free to kill it. The leader continued to beg them, emphasizing that they needed to run, but Light remained confident that his group would be fine and stood tall as they looked up at the towering mantis. Gold attempted to slash at the mantis, but it effortlessly blocked all his attacks and stood there unscathed, giving off an intimidating presence. Light then decided to use a fire arrow, but it was easily deflected as well, much to his dismay. He stared in fear, explaining how the Forsyth mantis's blades had high magic resistance and were extremely sharp, suggesting their group might need to work together to survive. The Golden Knight reassured them that there was nothing to worry about and began to talk about how shields were not just for defense, they could also be used strategically in battle. As the mantis was about to attack Gold, he swiftly deflected it, causing its blade to shatter dramatically. This entire battle became a presentation for the other group as Gold explained how to fight a monster like the mantis by using intelligence and targeting its limbs to cut them off. Now it was Light's turn, and he summoned many more fire arrows, flying toward the monster, causing Mia to stare in awe at the boy's remarkable power. Every arrow gathered together in one spot and connected with the mantis, effectively burning off one of its blades. The giant monster, sensing danger, quickly attempted to escape, which impressed Light. However, he was quick to use another spell, summoning a wall of fire to prevent the mantis from going anywhere. When it seemed to be getting away, it suddenly sprouted wings and tried to fly away from the battle, but Nemum was already one step ahead. She leaped into the air, dicing the monster into pieces with incredible skill. With a fierce glare, she landed gracefully, and Gold sighed at what she had done, feeling slightly offended until the knight explained that she had caught all of the valuable parts of the monster, meaning they couldn't sell it anymore. Nemumu found herself on her knees, apologizing to Light for her actions, but he easily forgave her with a nod. Meanwhile, Mia and the others stood by, staring in awe and wondering who the three were, intrigued by their astonishing abilities and teamwork. The battle was finally over, and Onii and his group eagerly praised the three for their exceptional skills in taking on such a large beast so easily. Onii asked Light and the others if they were famous or rank adventurers, quickly correcting himself as he reconsidered believing they could even be S rank. Light dismissed Onii's words of awe and casually explained that they had just registered as adventurers, which currently placed them at F rank. Gold chimed in, suggesting they could talk later about their adventures but should focus on collecting the magic stones first. Yet the boy insisted they needed to clean up the mess made by Nemum. Onii's group decided to lend a hand, and Mia summoned a water ball for Gold and everyone else to wash their hands. Clean water was extremely precious inside a dungeon, making it remarkable that someone could use their mana to create pure water for everyone to wash their hands. Light felt the sincerity of this group of adventurers and genuinely thanked them for their assistance. Mia walked up to Light, her cheeks slightly flushed as she apologized for her late gratitude for saving her from the bush snake. She gave an enthusiastic thanks, but in her excitement, she accidentally bit her tongue, which made her extremely flustered and embarrassed. Gold then told Light they should move soon in case there were other lurking monsters, but Oni suggested they accompany them to their nearby camp since the sun was beginning to set, and it would be dangerous for Light and the others to wander around at night. Oni expressed his desire to repay them for helping the hooded people in their recent encounters. Mia had questions about Ma magic ability assessment for Light. Light accepted their kindness and followed them to their camp, where they would eat, rest for the night, and chat about their lives. Once they settled in and dug into their meals, Mia learned that Light's parents were supposedly both mages, and she believed that was why he was so talented. Light took the opportunity to compliment Mia for her magical abilities at such a young age. Still, she dismissed his praise, comparing her power with his, especially since she couldn't even use tactic-grade spells or perform the necessary chants. Oni, while eating his food, asked his sister how much of a difference all types of magic had, causing the girl to whip her head around and yell at her brother about it. She explained that magic had 3 classes in total: combat grade, tactic grade, and strategy grade. Combat grade typically referred to things like elemental arrows and other spells used when mages fought alone. Tactic grade, such as the firewall that Light had conjured, was meant to enlarge the radius of magical effects. In contrast, strategy grade encompassed powerful spells like meteors, tsunamis, and earthquakes that could impact the world, requiring many mages to chant together in unison to summon them. Using tactic grade magic was considered proof of being first class, and races such as Dragon NES, Dark Elves, and Demons could pass such tests, whereas humans often struggled to climb that wall. Mia felt both impressed and envious of Light's power, especially seeing him wield it so quickly without the need for chanting, believing they were witnessing a legend carved into history right before their eyes. Nemumu stood up and laughed proudly, proclaiming that Mia had excellent eyes for recognizing the power of light. A light-hearted banter erupted between Nemumu and Gold, prompting Oni and Light to apologize to each other for the noise they caused. Oniai agreed that his sister was indeed talented, especially since she had received a recommendation from the principality to enter their prestigious magic school. Light's eyes sparkled with interest as he inquired about the principality, asking if it was the joint nation supported by all 9 races. Oni confirmed this and explained that the principality's magic school was the best place for anyone pursuing a career in magic. Gold then asked why they couldn't gain admission to the school already. Still, Oniai admitted that their parents had tragically passed away, leaving them without the income necessary to pay for tuition or even manage on their own. This unfortunate situation led the 2 siblings to reunite with their childhood friends and take up work as adventurers for the time being, all in hopes of earning enough money to allow Mia to attend the magic school. Mia chimed in, saying she was happy to be with everyone and pleaded with her brother, expressing that she didn't want him to do anything rash. Oni reassured her that he had no intention of doing so. Light complimented Mia again, confidently stating that she would reach her goal, but she thought he was merely flattering her. Light insisted, affirming that he genuinely believed in her potential, as it was rare for a human to wield magic in the first place. He noted that even if he were at level 99,999, he could only use magic because of his cards, whereas Mia genuinely possessed potential due to her innate abilities. Grateful for his kind words, the girl thanked Light. Oni then took the opportunity to ask him why he had chosen to become an adventurer. In response, Light fabricated a lie, saying that his parents had died in a fire. Nemumu added to the story, explaining that the boy had sustained a severe burn from the fire and was now searching for a potion to heal it. One of Onii's group members jumped into the conversation, playfully asking if Gold and Nemumu were lovers, which caused Nemumu to get angry while Gold laughed and agreed with her that they would never get together. Kimura then asked if they had a chance with Mimu, but she refused, declaring that she only liked Light. Mia stared in awe at the concept of an age gap romance, captivated by the notion. Everyone continued their banter for the rest of the night, sharing laughter and stories before they needed to sleep to prepare for the next day's challenges. Meanwhile, on the 3rd floor, Yanaku and Kaito diligently searched for materials from trolls. Kaito inquired about how long they would be hunting trolls, but the Dark Elf reassured him, explaining that the research focused on breaking the limits of races. He added that they would soon move on to their following material for experimentation: a human. 2 weeks had passed since Light and the others had gone into the dungeon, and now it was finally time for them to head back. However, the path to the entrance was crowded, so it would take a bit of time before the 3 of them could go back inside. People around them noticed and recognized them as the party rumored to have defeated the Forsyth Mantis, and they had become known as the Dark Clown Mask Party. Nemumu was surprised that a name had already been created for their party, while Light was excited to see they were starting to stand out. After not having seen each other for so long, Oni and his group walked up to greet the 3. They even gave Light a gift of appreciation, giving him medicine for his supposed burn wound. The Light stayed silent for a moment before he thanked Mia for the gift. Then, he took out something in return for her, a bracelet that would give the wearer a small miracle if they wished strongly upon it. He insisted that she take it, and Mia accepted it gratefully, putting it on and admiring it before she turned around and thanked Light with a bright smile. Namumu felt a bit jealous because she hadn't received a gift from Light, but Gold told her to stop, or else she would embarrass the boy. Once the three entered the dungeon, they immediately took to the air. Namumu asked Light if giving away such a valuable item in exchange for a low-grade medicine was truly okay. Light agreed that it wasn't a fair trade, but he said he was happy that she cared about him. When they arrived on the 5th floor of the dungeon, which was a snowy field, Light told Namumu and Gold that he would leave the Yetis to them while he went back to the abyss. He took out a card and teleported out of the dungeon, knowing he was safe to do so on the 5th floor because of its large size. Everyone was there to greet Light when he finally returned after being away for so long. May brought him some tea as Light explained what had happened on the journey and told them how he had met some nice people, which made May happy. Soon, Eri walked in and informed Light that there had been progress with Sasha's revenge plan and that it would be ready in 10 days. Light praised Eri for her work and told her to keep advancing with the preparations while May would manage the abyss and Aoyuki would take care of the forest. Nazuna ran in excitedly, hoping for a task, but Light hesitated since she often acted without thinking. In the end, he decided to have her protect the abyss from strong enemies. She agreed and excitedly told Eri to finish the preparations, causing the blonde witch to scoff as they left. Light continued to sit there, excitedly drinking his tea as he imagined Sasha's face filled with despair. On the 3rd floor of the Dagas dungeon, 2 men were sitting by the fire, chatting and sharing stories. They were currently serving as night guards, and one of the men, Sabalin, turned to Gilbert and asked if he happened to know anything about the infamous Dark Clown mask party. Gilbert admitted that he didn't know anything, so Sabalin explained that they were a remarkable group who had reached the 5th floor within just a few days and managed to defeat a Forsyth Mantis with only 3 members. They accomplished this using tactic grade magic without the need for chanting, which was quite impressive. Gilbert felt shocked and skeptical about this information, but Sabalin insisted that it was confirmed based on multiple witness accounts he had heard. It all sounded too incredible to be accurate, and Gilbert couldn't help but wonder if the human leader of the group might actually be a reincarnation of a legendary hero or some revered figure from history. Sabalin expressed his hope that this might lead to a significant shift in the world, where humans could finally start gaining the respect they deserved. After their engaging conversation, Sabalin casually walked off, mentioning that he would use the bathroom. However, when he returned, he stumbled upon a horrifying sight. Kaito stood ominously over his friend's decapitated head. Sabalin stared in shock but quickly composed himself, knowing he stood no chance against an elf like Kaito. Deciding that his best option was to report the gruesome situation to the guild, he gritted his teeth, utilized a smokescreen to obscure his escape, and attempted to sprint into the swamp. He thought that his escape had worked successfully until something suddenly struck him, knocking him painfully to the ground. Dazed and disoriented, Sabalin was soon rendered unconscious by Yanaku, who expressed his disappointment in Kaito's tendency to kill everyone without hesitation. The elf scoffed, claiming that humans were simply too annoying not to kill, and Yanaku agreed wholeheartedly, vowing to teach humans a lesson through his sinister experiments. He felt excited to gather more materials and replacements from within the dungeon's depths. Meanwhile, Mia admired a beautiful bracelet that Light had given her, a wide grin spreading across her face. The others began teasing her about her blossoming feelings for him. Flustered, Mia tried to dismiss their playful remarks, but they continued, hinting at the possibility of meeting Light on the next floor, which made her blush even more. She insisted that she only admired him as a powerful mage and threatened to withhold water and support if they kept teasing her. With a frustrated grumble, she walked away while the others chased after her, apologizing for their teasing and hoping to make amends.